Welcome all to the very first episode of Evac+Pod here at Evac+Chair International. We're delighted that you're joining us as we launch this brand new series dedicated to making the world a safer place. Every episode will bring together conversations with experts, industry leaders, and individuals who are driving meaningful change through their own lived experiences. We'll explore the challenges organisations face, the lessons we can learn from real events, and the legislation and innovation that are shaping a safer, more accessible future for everyone. Thank you for joining us at the start of this journey. Let's get into our very first episode. Well, I'm absolutely delighted to be joined today by a very special guest. My guest today is Figen Murray OBE, whose determination and unwavering commitment have transformed the conversation around public safety in the UK. This, of course, was following the tragic loss of her son Martyn in the Manchester Arena terrorist attack of 2017. Since then, Figen has become an unwavering advocate for improving public safety and dedicating herself to ensuring that lessons learnt from that tragedy and future tragedies can be prevented. Her determination and resilience have been instrumental in bringing about what is now known as Martyn's Law. Figen, thank you so much for joining me today. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on your podcast.
Thank you. So I think many of the listeners and our listeners today will be familiar with the fantastic campaign that you led and your unwavering dedication that you've shown in bringing Martyn's Law through into actual law. Officially known as the Terrorism Act in 2025, can you give us a little bit of information around where that determination has come from over the last few years to really drive this legislation through?
Gosh, about 18 months before Keir Starmer became Prime Minister, I bumped into him at a newspaper headquarters. And as he walked towards me, I thought, oh gosh, I now need to explain who I am and what I'm doing. But actually, I give him credit for having done his homework. He knew who I was and what I was doing. And he came up to me and said, well, I've got 2 teenage children and I know the work you've been doing. What on earth keeps you motivated to keep doing what you do? And I looked at him and I said, well, having your child's ashes on a bookshelf at home is a good motivator.
Yeah.
And he teared up a little and patted me on the shoulder and walked off. He didn't know what to say. So, but that is what motivates me literally. I just do not want another family to go through what we have gone through, and it is totally avoidable.
Yes, completely. At what point did you make that decision to yourself to say, I'm going to drive this?
Right. So obviously when Martyn died, I had been a psychotherapist for 23 years. The day he died was my last working day. I could no longer do my job because my whole perspective on life changed in that very moment. So I knew that ethically I can't justify continuing as a therapist. And I was also heavily grieving that first year. I was very, I'd say, zombie-like. I was just existing. But my children bought my husband some tickets to watch Katie Melua as a Father's Day gift. But the concert wasn't until 6 months later. And December came. It was the night of the concert. And it was the first time my husband and I went socially back into Manchester. And I remember getting ready and changing my handbag to the tiniest handbag I possessed, literally, because I thought, well, all I need is my phone and my tissues and it'll make the bag search easy. I literally expected that being at a music venue again, there'll be security everywhere and it'll be brilliant. And it would just simplify it. We got there. My husband got his tickets out. We walked in. Staff looked at us, then turned away and carried on talking. And during the concert, I was sort of totally taken aback by that. During the concert, my husband suddenly realised I'm absolutely sobbing.
Yes.
And he whispered saying, it's the songs, isn't it? He thought it's the songs that make me sad. And I said, I'm not even listening to the stupid songs. And he looked confused. He said, well, why are you crying? And I said, because nobody searched my bag.
Yeah.
I was devastated that 18 months after 22 people, a lot of them children,
Yes.
died at a music concert in Manchester, in that very same city, yet at another music concert.
Yes.
There was no security whatsoever. I couldn't take that on board at all. So throughout December, because that was 2nd of December 2018, throughout December I obviously started searching answers. I went on Google, did research on security at venues, eventually came across the government's contest document, which is the UK's counter-terrorism strategy document. And there it was in that document that security at venues is optional. And do you know what? I'm honestly nobody special. I'm literally a member of the public who looked at it, saw this gaping hole in legislation and thought, I'm not having this. I need to do something about it. So after Christmas and New Year, January 2019, I decided to run an online campaign to get security mandated.
Wow.
And that's how it all started.
It all started from there. Wow. Did you envisage that you would get to this point and you'd have a whole new law?
Absolutely not. It was meant to be a 6-month online campaign. After 6 months, that campaign automatically ceases to exist. Never in a million years did I think it would turn into a full-time job for the last 8 years. But it was a really bizarre thing, the campaign, because I thought I did well, because by the end of the campaign, I had about 23,500 signatures and I was really thrilled. But that soon stopped because halfway through mine, 2 other ones emerged on the same site and overtook mine by the hundreds of thousands within 2-3 weeks.
Wow.
One was Bring Back the Jeremy Kyle Show, because people obviously like to see members of the public being publicly humiliated. The other one was Bring Back Plastic Straws for McDonald's, because people genuinely seem to be very interested in or struggling with sucking up milkshake with a paper straw. And I can tell you the secret: you buy a milkshake and you leave it on the table for 10 minutes and then you start drinking it. I know that because I've done it.
Well, there you go, guys. We've solved one issue at least here
prove
today.
the point.
I find it's really interesting, though, and especially the fact that you were the person to take that on board yourself and campaign and drive for that change. I think sometimes we assume that, common sense will prevail and somebody surely is looking at this, especially, within 18 months of something as harrowing as the Manchester Arena bombings. But, you doing that research and finding actually, no, nothing exists, but then taking that upon yourself was instrumental in what we now have in Martyn's Law. So I just want to commend you on that, Figen.
Thank you.
So for those that might not be as familiar with the legislation, Martyn's Law, or have heard the name but aren't entirely sure what it means in practice, could you explain a little bit about what Martyn's Law is and what it aims to achieve?
Okay. So Martyn's Law is a protective piece of legislation, and it's in 2 tiers. It basically means that any venue that holds between 200 and 799 people, including staff, would come under what's known as the standard tier or standard duty, as it's also known. And any venue with 800 plus capacity, the bigger venues, would need to go under the enhanced duty or enhanced tier. And that would apply the legislation applies to any venue such as libraries, museums, hospitals, schools, colleges, universities, any big things like zoos, and hospitals. I think I mentioned hospitals. Any
so
big venue,
any
arenas. Anywhere where there's lots of people gathering. And it basically means that they will be regulated by SIA, which is the Security Industry Authority. They would be a bit like Ofsted, making sure that people actually do Martyn's Law correctly. And people need to do basically in the standard tier, the smaller one. The smaller tier doesn't need to really spend money. What they need to do is ensure that all members of staff from the caretaker and cleaner right up to the CEO, that every member of staff knows how to lock down a building, how to evacuate and hide people, how to evacuate should the danger come into the building, and how to communicate amongst each other, the customers and guests, but also outside authorities to say there's a problem and they need help. And then the enhanced tier, which is the higher tier, they need to do all of that. But in addition to that, they need a thorough risk assessment. Mm-hmm. They need documentation that's going to be very detailed. They need to maybe have very good CCTV provision, maybe high footfall or mass screening technology that is more and more available now. And any other measures like bug searches or, metal detectors or so. So it depends. Every venue will be different and has different needs. Yes. But I would say the main thing is that actually training is really important, that people know what to do.
Yes. Okay, thank you for taking us through that. In regards to the training, where would you suggest people and small businesses start with getting information?
So the government have actually not mandated that every member of staff needs to do training. It's recommended that the enhanced tier, that staff at the enhanced tier know what to do. But actually, how can you protect anyone if you don't know who your enemy is and who you protect against? So my advice is absolutely that any member of staff should have that training. It is available free of charge on the Protect UK website. Okay. It's called the ACT training. There's also, it's about an hour and 10 minutes maybe. Mm-hmm. And you can do it in sections. It'll just store what you've done so far. And there is also a Scanfall staff training video that all you need to do is watch it, and it's about 15 or 16 minutes long. And that teaches you how to recognize suspicious behavior. Yes. The ACT training itself tells you what to do with a bomb threat, tells you what to do with a suspicious package, and where to hide, where to run, etc., etc. Yes. So it's all very good knowledge that any citizen really should know. Yes. So kind of creating that awareness in any public place, but also something you can take with you into other venues. Yeah, because security is everybody's business, because unfortunately terrorism can happen anytime, anywhere and any place. Therefore, any member of the public should really be aware of the danger and know what to do. 100%, yes. Okay, thank you for that. Can you talk us through a little bit about some of the barriers and challenges that you faced along the way and how you found the strength and determination to overcome them? Yeah, well, some of the barriers, So not all politicians were on board with Martyn's Law. In the UK, when legislation is issued, you have to go through a 2-month scrutiny period. That's standard procedure. And that is a period of time where the legislation is literally pulled apart and criticised and comes under scrutiny. And the 2-month scrutiny period resulted in the threshold of 100 to 799 people to be raised to 200, which is a shame really, because any smaller venue now, although the government recommends they do Martyn's Law anyway, they don't have to do it, which is a shame. And it puts people unnecessarily at risk. So that was one of the hurdles. And then towards the very end of the debates in the House of Lords and the House of Commons, now my husband and I attended every single debate. In the House of Commons, that was 8 or 9, and in the House of Lords similarly. We went to every single one of them. We were at the mezzanine upstairs, very visible to the lords and ladies and the ministers. People were told we were in the room as well if they couldn't see us. So they knew we were there. Despite that, in both houses, in the House of Commons, one of the ministers got up and said, well, we should not be churning out laws in the name of a dead person. And we shouldn't be churning out laws that may not even work. And then in the House of Lords, a baroness got up and said, well, Mrs. Murray is a fierce campaigner, but we should not churn out legislation because we feel sorry for the victims. Now, both these comments really hurt. And on top of that, I also recognized very, very early on in my campaign that I need to put pressure on the government. And I realized as a result of that recognition that I need to use the media to support me.
Yes.
So I had many, many TV appearances on the red sofa. I was there at least 24 times. I had lots of interviews with other news channels and TV channels, newspapers, podcasts, you name it, I've done it.
Yes.
And that was all to put pressure on the government. So unfortunately, I shouldn't read comments, but when I then occasionally read comments on the web pages and saw things like, here she goes again, she's full of her own importance, it's all about her and her son, she never stops talking about it, she thinks she's the bee's knees, all those kinds of comments really hurt, because I'm actually, to be honest, a very introverted, private, shy person. And because of the legislation, because I'm so determined to not put other people in our situation and save them from it, I'm so determined that I was prepared to give up my privacy. Yet people accusing me of showing off was really painful.
Yes.
So when you have all these painful things, what is really important is to go home and lick your wounds, have a good cry, feel sorry for yourself, feel pathetic, and then at some point you dust yourself off and think, no, you can all get lost. I know why I'm doing this. And you just carry on.
That internal message, you
carry on.
You have to continue on and find a determination through all of that to strive through.
Yes.
Fantastic. Okay. So Martyn's Law, as you mentioned, is structured around the 2 tiers, standard and enhanced. Is there some advice or some explanation you can give us around how an organisation can determine which tier they fall into? And also, we know about 4 requirements around Martyn's Law as well. Are you able to give us a little bit about what they mean in practice, so any small business watching may be able to apply them?
Yeah. So first of all, on the Protect UK website and the Home Office website that deals with the section of Martyn's Law, there are flow charts that help you determine. You just literally go and answer yes or no, and that'll lead you to which scope you're under, which of the 2 tiers you're under.
Yeah. Okay.
So there's the flow charts. There is a guidance called Section 27 guidance that was issued in April this year. And that is a big, big document. It's over 140 pages long, but it has lots of grey boxes that are case studies that people can easily relate to, and they can determine from that document what they could adapt to their business or organisation. On top of that, there are frequently asked questions coming up soon on those websites. There's also a top 10 tips how to prepare. There are animations, 2-minute animations that explain the tiers, which tier you're under. Everything on there is free of charge, easy to access. But I always say, in addition to that, one of the first things you should do as an organisation is go and check your website. You wouldn't believe the information people give on their websites that will be helpful to a terrorist. Before a terrorist even comes to do hostile reconnaissance, which is a terrorist sussing out your building or your environment to check how they can attack it. Before they even do that hostile reconnaissance, the first thing they will do is they won't even get out of their armchair. They'll check on your website what information they can glean from there. And so many places, be that colleges, universities, hospitals, museums, there's floor plans on them. And I don't get it. Why would you need to have a floor plan on there to show a terrorist where all the entrances are? In the case of one college I went to, where the laboratory is, I mean, if where the staff and student car parks are, all the entrances, the cafes, this is all really useful information for terrorists. The other thing a lot of museums do, busy times. Why would you do that? Because whilst a customer may like to go when it's quiet, terrorists love busy times.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I'd much rather see on a website a comment such as, "For your safe enjoyment of our premises, we operate overt and covert security."
Yes.
Or photos of security cameras on the website, or photos of a security guard in uniform or high-vis jackets.
Yes.
That's far more useful than that.
Yes.
If you have at your entrance a sign with eyes on saying, "Smile, you're on camera," you know, that is off-putting to any terrorist.
Yes.
They don't like to be noticed. Training your staff in the power of hello. "Hi, you seem to be lost. Can I help you?" You know,
Yes.
but where is it you need to be? Terrorists don't like any of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Very, very good points. I think you're looking at the information then you're putting out and doing an assessment of that. Are you putting out too much? Are you sharing too much with the wider public? And with the mind that not everyone who's receiving or reading this information has necessarily your best interests at heart as a business.
Exactly. Even down to the point of a lot of managing directors or chief execs are into running, and they go on the Strava site and mark where they walk and run, and that is too much information.
Yeah, great point. When you look back on this journey then, Figen, what do you hope that your own legacy will be, and what do you hope that people will take away from your story?
Well, it's never been my legacy. It's always been for Martyn. But in Martyn's name, I hope that lots and lots of lives can be saved. I hope for the future that the general public will just be cultivating more of a security awareness. Obviously, the general members of the public don't know about Martyn's Law yet, because the government will not be running a public awareness campaign until the implementation period is over. And understandably, they can't, because they need to give venues time to put all the measures in place before they can inform the public. Otherwise, the public will expect it already to happen. And that's not realistic.
Okay. In regards to this, is there anything additional that you think we should be doing to raise more awareness around Martyn's Law, or to supplement or provide more support to Martyn's Law?
I think every member of the public ought to do the ACT training. I really do. Just because you are an employee of a company and your company may say, do the ACT training, I think that is almost not enough. Tell your members of your family, your adult children, about, tell your neighbours and friends to go and do the ACT training, because let me give you some figures. So there are, at any given time over the last 7-8 years, those figures hardly changed, and they're not likely to. At any given time, there are roughly about 800 live investigations that will end up at the Old Bailey, and people will get charged for terrorist offences and hopefully imprisoned. There are around 2,500 subjects of interest who are not criminal enough yet to be taken to court. But there are people who are being watched very closely by MI5 because they're engaging in really unsavory stuff. What keeps me awake at night are the 30,000 or thereabouts people who, what I say always, they are dancing around the rim of extremist material online. There is no government on this planet who can watch over 30,000 people and what they do online. It's just impossible. And therefore, these figures are constantly on, staying roughly the same. So there's always a follow-through from that keeps adding to these. And the danger with that is people clearly get radicalized online. And with what's happening globally, or the conflict that happens, unfortunately, extremists are very unashamedly using the conflict that happens on the earth at the moment to reinforce their own messages. They're abusing that, and obviously, unfortunately, engaging a lot of people to follow their mindset. And that is really dangerous.
Yes, I'd agree. Is there anything you can suggest for businesses to keep vigilant or increase their vigilance, considering the environment we're in with social media, exponentially kind of throwing petrol on a flame, if you like, with how fast some of this messages can spread.
I would say, you need to be always vigilant, but I think what is really important for a business, the best way to prepare any business, be that a big cafe or restaurant or cinema or an arena or any environment really, a hospital even, practice a lockdown, practice an evacuation, practice evacuation and your communication. So I went to a big college recently to do a talk there, and they said to me afterwards, we did a practice lockdown and it went horribly wrong.
Yeah.
The communication didn't work and the evacuation didn't work quite well.
Yes.
And I said, that's great news that it didn't work. And she said, how so? And I said, well, you identified this wasn't the real thing.
Exactly.
You did a practice, and in that practice run, you identified major things that went wrong.
Yes.
You now have the chance to rectify that.
Yes.
And do it again, and hopefully next time it's okay. These practice lockdowns and evacuations and all of that are really crucially important. First of all, to identify if things don't quite work, so you can sort them out. But also, more importantly, once you've done this, if the real thing was to happen, staff already have it in their muscle memory, and they'll remember what they've done in that practice.
Yes, I agree totally. Are you able to explain a little bit more about what evacuation means? Because it's a term I think that we use quite a lot, but a lot of people don't necessarily resonate with it.
So evacuation basically means that if, say, a terrorist was outside a big restaurant or cafe, people can be called inside and the front door is locked and people can be hidden out of view.
Yes.
And a good example of that is when the terrorist attack in London happened on one of the bridges, where the terrorists first of all rammed into people and then they jumped out of their vehicles with knives, and I don't think they had guns, but they certainly had knives and machetes. And luckily, just a few weeks before that, the police in London went round a lot of the businesses near the bridges and told them basic training, and they taught them about evacuation. And one restaurant manager in particular saw this commotion on the bridge, and the next thing he saw, some people running around with knives, and it was obviously a summer's evening, loads of people outside the restaurant eating, and he and his staff quickly got everybody inside. There were about 130 people. And they hid them in the basement. They locked the front door and hid them in the basement. And the restaurant manager was he was just locking the door. And the terrorists tried to get in and couldn't get in. And terrorists don't like locked doors. Eventually, he tried hard and couldn't get in and he walked off. So evacuation basically means if there is danger right outside your door, you bring people in, you lock the door, and you hide people out of view.
So essentially kind of creating more time between the time it takes for an attacker to get to people, putting barriers in the way.
Totally.
Fantastic. And evacuation, we mentioned that just recently as well. Where do you see the significance and importance of evacuation in this?
Again, with evacuation, you need to be careful because some hospitals and colleges and universities don't just have one building, there are several buildings. That's where communication is really important, so that the security staff can communicate with each other, because they can see where the terrorist might go from one building to the next, and they can warn each other. And the last thing you want to do is evacuate people into the danger.
Into a danger zone, I agree.
So that's why communication is so important.
That communication, that training, all those points. So Figen, over the last 8 years, you devoted an extraordinary amount of time, energy into achieving something that will undoubtedly save lives for generations to come. It's been an incredible journey, but one that has understandably come at a personal cost too. As Martyn's Law now becomes reality, I'd love to finish by asking, as you're looking to the future, what are you looking forward to personally? And what do you hope the next chapter of life holds for yourself and your family?
Well, it's become a full-time job and it has been really intense, and I don't mind that until the implementation period is over, because it's a job that needs to be finished. So there's a book coming out about the journey, and that's not an autobiography. It's not about me. It's about the journey of Martyn's Law, all the learning, the hurdles. Because what I want to make sure of is that any future generations, when they look at Martyn's Law, I don't want them to think it's the government who's done it.
Yes.
I want people to know and understand that this law has come out of people dying, and that members of the public, and I'm not on about me, I'm not bothered whether it's me or other people. I want people to know that it's a member, a bog standard person has initiated it, and then it became a movement that enabled people to become safe as a result of that.
Yes.
So I want people to know this is not made by the government. It's people power.
Yeah.
That's really important to me.
Grassroots by the
Yeah,
people.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And in terms of my own future, once the book is out, we've also next year in 2027 in May, it's the 10th anniversary, which is a significant anniversary. And hopefully I will slow down with Martyn's Law, the work I'm doing there. But I'm not entirely sure if that's going to be realistic, because what I hadn't realised is that this law doesn't exist, or something similar doesn't exist anywhere in the world.
Yes.
And the nearer we get to the implementation period coming to an end, the more international interest there is now. So I've already been to Turkey 2 or 3 times. I've been to Germany twice. I've given webinars recently to the Canadian Mountain Police. I know Sydney Opera House are already looking at implementing Martyn's Law as part of their security. There's interest from Australia, but I'm also traveling to Poland and Portugal in the autumn, and I'm also going to Dallas in September to talk to the FBI and all their staff at their Dallas branch.
Yes.
As well. So there's international interest. Obviously, I need to combine the American one with gun crime, because we have knife crime, they have gun crime, so I need to somehow coordinate with that.
Yes.
But I can see Martyn's Law expanding more globally. But my personal main aim is, whilst I'm happy to go abroad and talk about it, I don't want to do it with the same intensity as I have been doing in the UK, because I'm tired. But I've had so many hurdles along the way, and there's been so much learning, that I decided I feel I can share some of those hurdles, and other people can learn from that, and it's transferable things into other people's issues. And therefore I want to be a motivational speaker. So far nobody's taken me up on that, but apart from one company. But I want to do more of that, because I think there's real learning that I can pass on to other people.
I think there's definite learnings in how you've overcome the huge hurdles you have, and not just for your own benefit, but for the benefit of us all.
I dare say without one of the things I did, I wouldn't be sat here, and Martyn's Law wouldn't exist. And that was 3.5 weeks after Martyn died. One of my police family liaison officers said to me, do you know Islamophobia has gone up in Manchester by 300%? And there were other things that made me realise something. And I also saw the photo of the terrorist, who was only 22 years old. He was very, very young. And I decided 3.5 weeks after his death to go on the BBC breakfast show on the red sofa and publicly forgave the terrorist. And without that forgiveness, I can tell you now, I would not be sat here. I would have probably either, I don't know, turned into an alcoholic or a very, very depressed, incapable person.
Wow,
without
that's
any
really
doubt.
powerful. And just thank you for your resilience and your determination in not succumbing to that, and actually pushing through with that determination, bringing forth Martyn's Law. Thank you for that, Figen. It's been an absolute privilege to hear your story and to learn more about the journey behind Martyn's Law. On behalf of everyone here at Evac+Chair International, I'd like to thank you for everything you've done and continue to do. to help make our communities safer and more secure. We wish you and your family every happiness for the future.
Thank you.
Thank you, Figen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for joining us. Details of our next special guest will be on our website at evac+chair.co.uk. Please join us next time.